I'm a single mom. I have to come home, help finish homework, spend time with my daughter, have dinner. And then when I would put her to bed, I'd work again for a couple of hours. It's hard. I mean, that comes out to be like a 14 to 18-hour day on a regular basis. But I was very, very motivated to get out of my situation. I was in poverty and I couldn't stand it anymore. And I saw the light at the end of the tunnel. So I just kept going. And there were times where I really wanted to stop. I cried. I was tired. By Thursday evening, I was exhausted after the week. I'd still work every single weekend on the business. It was a lot, but if you keep doing the consistent things, the hard things, which is usually sales, if you keep doing those things, you'll get out of your situation and you'll start seeing improvement. So I did that. I started the business in January 2019. By August, I didn't make enough money yet to even cover my mortgage, but I quit my job because I had 4 clients and I felt like I couldn't do both. And by November, I had enough clients that I actually made more money than I did when I was working. That is all just consistency, grit, and just keep going. You just can't stop.
Hello everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of the Winner Circle podcast. I'm your host Adewole, and today we have someone special for you. In this episode, I'm stepping down to make way for the incredible Dr. Osaretin Agbonavbare, who will take the reins as host for this conversation. Osaretin is a visionary in his field, and I can't wait for you all to hear his insight and his expertise. So sit back and enjoy Osaretin as he engages our guests and is also going to dive into topics that matter the most to us. So let's get started, and I'll be behind the curtain of production and be listening to this show. Thank you for listening.
All right. So thank you very much, Natalie, for joining on today's podcast, Winner Cycle with Jay. I'm going to cover in for Jay for today. I'm Osaretin Agbonavbare, and I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm also author of books that you can find on Amazon. So once again, I welcome you, and I'm just really, really thrilled that you're joining us for today's podcast. So we have Natalia. She's founder of Zacharin Consulting, and elite accounting firm specializing in empowering businesses owners to achieve financial clarity and resilience. Do you have also experience working with various firms? Natalia has launched a firm in 2019 with a mission to help entrepreneurs to navigate the complexity of their financial landscape. Under her leadership, she has evolved into a much more than just a standard accounting services, but she offers strategic bookkeeping, remote CFO services that is incredible, innovative financial intelligence program that provide clarity and direction to businesses looking to scale their business, like trying to catch up with the competitive market. And she has really been able to emphasize on adaptability, how to have a deep understanding of each client's unique challenges, making her a trusted advisor in today's ever-changing economic environment. With a passion for fostering growth and resilience in our clients, she has become an influential figure in the entrepreneurship community. Today, she's going to share insights and some of her strategies that she have used, tested over the years on how we could actually prepare for businesses, especially in this sensitive environment where we have a lot of people trying to do a lot of business. So once again, thank you very much, Natalia, for joining on to this podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk to you today.
All right, so we're just going to dive into the first question.
Very good question. I really think that the first step is, and the foundation of success is to understand your finances,
Okay.
use an accounting software, or hire someone to make sure that your financial statements are accurate.
We've seen a lot of people trying, especially for startup companies. How best can startups survive in this competitive market, in your own perspective?
I think it depends on if you're a service or product. making sure that the market is interested in what you have to offer, or the timing of the market, making sure that your pricing is correct, not pricing according to your competition, but pricing according to what you need to price for the value that you're giving and also to make a profit. So pricing is really important for someone starting out. And don't worry, a lot of us don't price correctly in the first couple of months or maybe even the first year or two. But as long as you keep learning and changing what you're doing and taking a look at the numbers and does this make sense, and make changes along the way, then you'll be fine.
All right. Thank you very much for sharing that. Just what I also want to ask, like in your own experience, I've seen that you've done a lot of things in your own space. What are some of the common mistakes that a lot of business make when preparing for economy and downtown?
One of the mistakes that businesses make is that they're not paying attention to the future. They're looking at historical data when
Okay.
you really should have projections, because projections will tell you if you're headed in the wrong direction. Because in finance and in business, it's not where you are right now, it's where you're trending, it's where you're headed. And if you don't have any visibility into 3 to 6 months down the line, you could be headed in the wrong direction and not know it. And if you do have projections and you are looking ahead, it gives you an opportunity to start correcting if you're finding that you're getting into a bad turn. It gives you time and it gives you more options, because time is really important in business. If you're running out of cash, so for instance, if you run out of cash 6 months from now, if you know that you're going to run out of cash 6 months from now, you have 6 months to fix that. Whereas if you just suddenly run out of cash, you have no time, you run out of time. So having information and looking ahead is very important. Yes, cash flow is really important. And a lot of people look at their bank account and that's how they determine if they're doing okay. And that
Okay.
can be really dangerous, because if, for instance, a big bill comes in or a deposit that you were expecting doesn't come in, you can get into trouble. So, and cash does not equal profit. So profit, the number, after all of your revenue comes in, all your expenses go out, that number, that profit number is not necessarily how much cash you have. Because then if you're taking money out of the business, if you're paying old debt, if you have a lot of loans and you have principal that you're paying, or if you're taking money out of the business as owner draws, you're not going to see where that cash is going. So looking at all of those statements, that the profit and loss, and then looking at your cash flow statement is really important, but also building up cash. So even if you make a ton of mistakes, and as business owners, we're all going to make a lot of mistakes. Even if you make a ton of mistakes, if you have cash in the bank, again, it gives you options. It gives you time to make a mistake, fix the mistake, and move ahead. If you're making decisions quickly and also having cash in the bank, I think those are two really important things. I recommend having 3 to 6 months worth of cash for all of your expenses that you save up over time, and hold that in there as long as possible. So you always have 3 to 6 months worth of cash in your bank account for your business.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Also going to add like terms of taxes. I know every business you is expected you have to pay taxes, and a lot of startup and even corporations struggle with that. Just want to ask like what proactive tax strategy can business owners like entrepreneurs consider that will better prepare them when there's a lot of like with the economic situation that we're experiencing now? Like what strategy will you recommend for entrepreneurs?
Sure. So there are different stages of entrepreneurship where it starts making sense. So when you're just starting out, it probably doesn't make sense to do a lot of tax strategy because you don't have a big profit number. Once you get to a certain level, and I'd say that level is probably between 60,000 to 100,000 in profit, and and especially if you're still a sole proprietor,
Okay.
you should start considering maybe becoming an LLC that files as an S corp.
Okay.
The reason why you don't want to do it sooner is because it costs money and you have to put
Okay.
yourself on payroll. So you have to have consistent profit to be able to put yourself on payroll. But to become an S corp, it saves, and it's not an exact number. So it reduces your self-employment tax, which is 15.3% on top of your federal taxes. but you have to be on payroll and pay into your Social Security, Medicare, and then your federal taxes that way. So it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. You're not saving an exact 15.3%, but you are saving on taxes by becoming an S corp. And that's also why it makes sense to become an S corp when you have more profit, because then that number where it starts to make sense really starts hitting around 60,000 in profit, 80,000 in profit, and up. And that's also, you can do an S election retroactively. So for now, like we're in September right now. If you think, hey, I might hit that number by the end of this year, you could probably do a retroactive S election. So then you have time to make that decision. So that's like the biggest one for companies that are bigger and then have multiple employees, have a much bigger profit. Hopefully they are an S corp, or sometimes they become a C corp. So a C corp is someone who is looking for investor money. It's not a tax strategy. It's a corporation looking for investor money, and the rules become more and more strict with the accounting to make sure that the financials are correct. So you have to make sure that you're not putting in like a lot of personal expenses and everything. But once you get bigger, there are strategies that you can layer on top of the S corp strategy. One you may have heard of, like on TikTok or Instagram, called the Augusta rule. So if you own a house.
Hey, winners, have you got a business or brand that deserves to shine? I'm just saying this right now because I'm giving the opportunity for you to advertise on Winner Circle with Jay and connect with thousands of ambitious entrepreneurs and leaders who are about growth. It's all about growth. So whether you are advertising a product or a service, secure your slot as low as $100. So what are you waiting for? Email us at advert@winnercirclewithj.com. Here at Winner Circle with J, we just don't talk success, we create success. All right, see you soon.
And you don't rent that house to anybody else. You could actually rent your house to your business as an S corp. That's a nice strategy. There's also something called the accountable plan. So now if you have an office at home, and the business percentage use of the office, that's all deductible. That's deductible before an S corp, but it becomes, you can put it through the business as an S corp or reimburse yourself. And then the mileage, if you have an outside office and a home office, now you're traveling, you're commuting from office to office. So now that mileage becomes deductible, but only if you're an S corp. So yeah, first have to be filing, not just an LLC, you have to be filing as an S corp or a C corp. So those are some of the strategies that you may have heard of. If you have children over the age of 8, and I wouldn't go younger than 8, you can create a job description for them with an appropriate hourly wage and have a log, and you can pay them, I think it's still up to $12,000 a year. And that money doesn't necessarily have to go to them. That money can go into their education. It can go into a Roth account for them. It can pay for school books. So that's a nice way to also have your children start participating and understanding business and work. So that's a nice strategy as well. So there's a lot. There are a lot more advanced strategies. So if you do invest in real estate, there are a lot of real estate strategies. If invest in oil and gas, that one you have to be careful because there's a lot of scams out there. But I do that strategy, and it's very safe if you have a really good contact. So that's a really nice way to invest money and make it a tax deduction at the same time. So there's a lot of different ones, but the main ones would be Augusta rule, the S corp, Augusta rule, accountable plan, and then hiring kids. We call those the workhorse strategies.
Yeah, just to follow up on what you said, I just want to ask, like for businesses that are strictly online, like remote, they don't have a physical office and all of that. So how would they be able to manage deductibles when filing taxes? Because at that point, they're a startup and they're trying to get their feet into the market and they don't want to pay, like they want to see how they can manage their taxes. So what strategy will you recommend for someone who is strictly doing business online?
Sure. So we're actually a remote company also still.
Okay.
We built this, I built it literally out of my bedroom.
Okay.
And everybody can take a home office deduction. So whether you're an S corp or just a sole proprietor, it doesn't matter. What that is, is taking the square footage of your home, and you don't have to own the home. You could be renting, could be an apartment. It doesn't matter. You take the square footage, the total square footage of your home, and then the square footage of your office space, and that gives you a percentage. So if your home is 2,000 square feet and your office is 200 square feet, that's 10%. And then you take all of your expenses that affect the office. So electricity, water, sewer, pest control, all those expenses. And then you can take that 10% deduction, right? Whatever that percentage of business use is. So that's, I don't see a lot of people doing that all the time because it takes a little bit of work, right? It needs to be the actual amounts. So you have to go into your bank account and figure out like how much you paid on electricity and how much you paid for water. So it takes a little bit of time, but it could save you thousands of dollars on taxes. So it's worth the effort. The other one is your cell phone. You can deduct 100% of your cell phone. You don't have to do the business use of your cell phone and your internet. You can deduct 100% of your internet because you're using it for business. So I wouldn't miss those deductions. Other small ones that a lot of people miss are if you're learning things, if you're buying books, if you're listening to podcasts, if you're listening to books on Audible, those subscriptions and those purchases for learning about business, mindset, finance, anything that helps you to become a better business owner, all of that is deductible.
All right. Wow, I think that is very, very insightful. I'm sure our listeners have learned so much from what you said. So I just want to ask, because seeing that we are in the world of artificial intelligence, and so how do you think businesses can actually cope, especially startup, where some of the things that they would have been able to focus on can easily be duplicated by AI? So how would businesses been able to cope in this? We have a lot of uncertainty in the economy, and also we have AI trying to replace a lot of jobs. So what would you recommend for such people who are struggling with AI at a startup?
Yeah, so there's a lot of discussion. I'm in an industry that someone would consider a difficult industry. There's literally an accountant on every street corner. So there's a lot of competition. Anybody with a computer can say that they do that, that they're a bookkeeper.
Mhm.
I would also compete with anybody worldwide who are a lot less expensive. So there's a lot of competition. And in addition to that, AI is coming in and it is starting to replace some of our functions, but not everything. So what I really suggest is to embrace AI, learn everything that you can about it, see how you can use it to really speed up or amplify what you're doing. So for instance, AI is not taking over bookkeeping. In fact, some of the companies that have tried to do AI bookkeeping have gone under because it's not there yet.
Okay.
But if you really watch it, you can do the job a lot faster. So older accounting firms that have been around for a long time, they have a lot more people on payroll. Our company is very tech forward. We use a lot of technology. We're remote. We use the cloud. We're trying to embrace technology. We do things super fast and maybe even more accurately because we're embracing technology. So I would say embrace the technology. AI is great to use for ideas on marketing, ideas on webinars, ideas on writing an article. You should change it to make it look like it's you, but there's a lot of things that you can use with it. I don't think AI is going to replace some jobs, but the ones that are very value driven, the ones that are personal, like advising people, that is not going to be a replacement for a long time. I think that, like, I'm not really sure how it's going to go, but we were all really worried when the industrial era came around and people were losing their jobs, but those jobs were all replaced with other jobs. So I think that we're going to have other jobs. They're just going to look different.
Right.
Sure. So if you're a service-based business, I truly recommend that you try as a sole proprietor to do everything that you can by yourself and not hire people. Not to hire until you are beyond $250,000 in gross revenue, because you won't have enough cash for reinvesting back in the business, paying for your lifestyle, paying taxes. If you can get in a service-based business, if you can get up to 200 to 250,000 per person, per full-time equivalent person, that includes you, that's a really good start. So I realized when I first started, I had a tremendous amount of work and I felt like I needed to hire someone. Well, the problem is you can't hire someone when you're busy. You have to hire someone when you can afford it. So I realized I was only at $250,000 and I really felt like I needed to hire someone. So what did that mean? I needed to increase my prices. I needed to get bigger clients, increase my pricing, and do a complete overhaul in what I was doing. And that's what I did. And then I could hire someone, and it started to make sense. I'm looking for payroll, including the owner, to not exceed about 30% of gross revenue. If you have a business that has a lot of subcontractors, so for instance, if you're doing videos and you have a bunch of contractors that are editing for you, you have to make sure that you're making about that they're not taking more than about 20 to 30% of your top line of what you're getting paid, because you won't have enough for administrative employees, operations costs, taxes, and all those things. Just be really careful about who you hire and when, and try to do as much as you can on your own. For products, it's a little bit different because you've got all the cost of goods sold. So if you have cost of goods sold for a product, or like if you have a bake shop or something like that, I would say that we want the gross profit. So that would be your cost of goods sold, the percentage of that, what it gets taken out of the revenue. You want to probably be about 60%. It's close to 50% or higher that you can be. Again, so you can afford everything else. So you can afford operations, administrative costs, other people, taxes, and reinvesting back in the business and paying yourself.
Okay.
So you want to make a profit. That takes a little bit of time, but if you're looking at your financials, you look at them from month to month and keep looking and seeing what the differential is and how much do you need to make to start
Yeah.
making money. Like that's your break even point, and start with that.
We've seen a lot, especially from our audience, we've seen that some of them want to go into business, but they have a full-time job, like a 9 to 5, and they're thinking of, okay, I want to go into business, but they don't have the time because they have to pay the bills and all of that. For someone who is having those struggles, so what would you recommend? Like, should the person just stick to the 9 to 5? That, like, how would the person be able to match up with the competition that is in that market?
Sure. So it depends on your financial situation, your personal situations.
Hey, winners, do you have a business, brand, or services that deserve to be heard by thousands of our ambitious entrepreneurs? We have over hundreds of thousands of listeners on these shows. So we have professionals, we have leaders. They're willing to see what you've got to offer. Then this is your opportunity. At Winner Circle with Jay, we share real stories, strategies, and insight that help our listeners win in business, and your brand can be part of that impact. As low as $100, you can advertise with us today. What are you waiting for? Send us an email at advert@winnercirclewithj.com to secure a slot today, because we have limited slot available. You have to be fast about it. Let your brand be heard. Here at Winner Circle with Jay, we just don't talk success, we create it. So whether you are trying to advertise your book or whatever the thing is, or product or services, reach out to us. I will get you on the show. All right, talk soon.
I was a single mom. I wasn't making enough money and getting kind of like demoted out of the corporate world because I was a middle-aged single mom and I was looking for other jobs. I couldn't find other jobs. So I started this business as a side job just to make extra cash, knowing that I wanted to start a business. So basically I thought I would just make extra cash. And then I decided I'm going to make this into a business. I had to work full time and I couldn't leave my job because I had bills to pay and I was struggling financially. So what I did, so it's going to depend on everybody's situation. So if you have a second income coming in from someone else in the household, or if you have money saved up, you might not have that situation, but I had to work full time. So what I did was I learned and I did everything I could before work, on my commute to work, listen to business books and finance books. And so like my commute became my time to educate myself. During lunch hour, I would take calls. I would actually set up sales calls and take calls at my lunch hour, sometimes sitting in my freezing cars. And then as soon as I'd leave work, I'd also either learn or take calls on my commute home. Again, I'm a single mom. I'd have to come home, help finish homework, spend time with my daughter, have dinner. And then when I would put her to bed, I'd work again for a couple of hours. It's hard. I mean, that comes out to be like a 14 to 18 hour day on a regular basis. but I was very, very motivated to get out of my situation. I was in poverty and I couldn't stand it anymore. And I saw the light at the end of the tunnel. So I just kept going. And there were times where I really wanted to stop. I cried. I was tired. By Thursday evening, I was exhausted after the week. I'd still work every single weekend on the business. It was a lot, but if you keep doing the consistent things, the hard things, which is usually sales, if you keep doing those things, you'll get out of your situation and you'll start seeing improvement. So I did that. I started the business in January 2019. By August, I didn't make enough money yet to even cover my mortgage, but I quit my job because I had 4 clients and I felt like I couldn't do both. And by November, I had enough clients that I actually made more money than I did when I was working. And then by the following year, I was already able to hire. That is all just consistency, grit, and just keep going. You just can't stop.
All right. So thank you very much for sharing that with us. I'm sure our audience have benefited from all that you share with us. That's a wrap for us today. It's been an insightful episode at Winners Cycle Podcast. Thank you very much, Natalia, for sharing all of this with us. Like I said, our audience have heard you. I'm sure there will be like a follow-up to see how they could also learn more about what are some of the things you're doing. She have shared some of our strategies on creating financial recommendations in terms of finance, taxes, and all of that, and
Thank you.
how you could actually use certain approaches to get business. And I'm sure we've enjoyed this conversation, and it's very, very helpful. And I want to advise our audience to take time to subscribe, to rate, and share, and leave a review on this podcast. Your support will definitely help us to continue bringing insightful and meaningful conversations like what Natalia have shared with us. So be sure to connect with us on social media and share your thoughts on some of the questions that have been asked, some of the responses that Natalia has shared with us. And once again, thank you very much for being part of the Winner Cycle. All right. So thank you very much, Natalia, for sharing that. Before we go, we want to really learn more about some of the things you're doing on the side, how our audience can get in touch with you, some of the things you're doing in your own space. So I want to give you the opportunity for you to speak on that.
Sure. So you can find us on our website, www.zacharinconsulting.com. And like I mentioned, if you go to zacharinconsulting.com/winner's circle, you can get those free downloads, 7 ways to find money in your business, the ultimate checklist for financial success. And there's a calendar link there too, if you wanted to get in touch with us. And then we're also on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram. We're on Grow Your Bottom Line is our handle, and Facebook. So we're all over the place.
All right. So thank you very much for sharing that. Once again, the audience, thank you for being part of the Winner Cycle. Remember, resilience isn't just about bouncing back, it's about building a strong foundation for future growth. Until next time, I'm encouraging you to take control of your business, finance, and embrace the journey of entrepreneurship. Once again, thank you for joining us today. Do have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Thank you. Thank you. It was very nice. Thank you. Have a
All
great
right.
day.
Yeah.